Well, good morning, boys and girls. I know some of you have gone back to school and some are about to start school. It's all very exciting. I hope lots of you are looking forward to seeing friends again, being back in the classroom, seeing teachers. We'll be praying for you for the week ahead. But I want to think about school this morning as we think about Psalm 143. Because when you go to school, there are all sorts of rules, aren't there, that you need to follow if you are to get on well with your teachers and do well at school. Rules about how to speak in the classroom, how to interact with your teacher, what you can do at lunchtime, what you can't do in the dinner hall, things like this. What happens if you break those rules? Well, you get into trouble, don't you? You have to go and speak to the teacher or the dinner lady, or you need to go, if you're really bad, to the head teacher. And what happens if you keep breaking the rules? If your behavior is seriously wrong? Well, there's that potential that you can get expelled from school, separated from the school, sent away. And that happens, doesn't it, sadly, with some pupils in schools every year. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, I want us to see in the psalm this morning, in the first 3 verses, that David speaks about us being separated from God. He says something very significant in these verses. I want to read just the first couple of verses again for us and to hear what David has to say to us. He says this, "Hear my prayer, O Lord. Give ear to my pleas for mercy. In your faithfulness, answer me in your righteousness. Enter not into judgment with your servant. Let no one living, for no one living is righteous before you." Now, at school, there will be some who don't get on well with the school, some who misbehave, some who get expelled. But most of you are well behaved, I imagine. You do as you're told. You don't get detentions. You are congratulated for the quality of your work and your behavior in the classroom. But notice what David says here. He says that before God, we all fail. For no one living is righteous before you. In other words, all of us are expelled from God's kingdom. All of us, because of our sin, are separated from God. Not some of us, all of us, because we all break God's laws. We all break His good rules. We're all sinners who face separation. We all face judgment. What do we need? We need mercy. That's what David says. Notice what he asks for. He prays, doesn't he? Now, I imagine you pray at home with your parents. You maybe pray on your own. That's a good thing to do. And you pray for all kinds of things. Perhaps you've been praying for going back to school, or praying for your family, praying for other people in the church who are sick and unwell, praying the Lord would give you things that you need, praying for your holidays and your friends. All of those prayers are good things. But the Bible says to us, the first thing we need to pray for, the most important thing we need to ask God about and God for, is mercy. And now this is a word that's going to come up later in our service when we look at 1 Timothy. And it's an important word because it says that before God, all of us fall short and we need His mercy. We need His help. We need His forgiveness. Have you prayed that prayer? Have you asked for the mercy of God? That is perhaps the most important prayer you can ever pray. It is the prayer that begins the Christian life. Asking for the mercy of God, but also trusting in God's provision, because the Bible says that God is merciful. The sinners who are separated from God can come back and know the living God through Jesus Christ. At the cross, we see the mercy of God because Jesus stands in our place. He takes our punishment that we might be forgiven and that we might come back to the living God as His friends, as His children even. So the psalm reminds us about what is most important for us to pray for. Yes, when we go to school, some do get expelled, sadly, but we are all expelled before God, and we all need his mercy. We all need to ask him for forgiveness, and we all need to look to Jesus Christ for his grace. Well, I'll be praying for you in the week ahead, praying that you know that, and praying for you as you start back at school. But we're going to have a song now, and then we're going to have a mission video. The song will be Lord, I Lift Your Name on High, a song put together by a music group. And then we're going to have a mission video on Turkey. The reason I've chosen Turkey this week is because the letter of 1 Timothy is written to a church in Ephesus, and Ephesus in the ancient world is in the area that we now know as Turkey. So I thought it'd be good to hear about Turkey because it is a country where the church is very small and where it's very difficult to be a believer and for churches to grow. So we'll hear about Turkey. And as Tom suggested last week, perhaps you pause after you watch that video to pray together. It's a good thing to do, to stop, to pause, to pray for that nation in your families. Then we'll have a reading from 1 Timothy. Joel and Ivana are going to read to us verses 1 to 4 of the first chapter. Then we'll sing, Speak, O Lord, and then I'll preach from that passage. So that's what's to come. But we'll sing, Lord, I lift your name on high first.